Welcome to Art Talk with April, Season 2. I'm April Harris of Inked April, located in Birmingham, Alabama. This season we'll be talking with new artists and professional expert artists. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to Art Talk with April. Today we have the very talented Dan Hollenbaugh of Capital's Tools. Dan, how did you get started in photography? Where did all of your creativity come from?
Well, I had my cat just came to join me.
Sorry.
She's my studio assistant.
Yeah.
But I started taking photographs when I was much younger, back in the 70s with film cameras. And career, family, everything, I put it away. And when I retired, I started picking it up again. Of course, digital changed everything. And what got me really going into what I do now is I was playing around with a lot of different things. I was doing some work with automobile parts. I was making custom bicycles, restoring furniture, and one day online, I happened across a bunch of photographs taken by art photographers from 100 years ago or so. And I thought, these are really beautiful. Why aren't we still doing this? So I decided that I was going to do it. And that's how I started to do what you're seeing here.
Yeah, I've actually come across some of that myself. I want to say, are you talking about like tintypes or I don't know much about
Well,
it.
tintypes and daguerreotypes and all those are 19th century.
Yeah.
You move into the early 20th century and you're starting to deal with film photography as we know it
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
There's still, you'll still see some glass plates in that era,
Mm.
but you're moving more towards the film kind of thing that, Kodak made a world empire out of.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, the photographers I'm talking about, I'll throw a couple of names out. Albert Arthur Allen
Mm.
of was on the West Coast. Alfred Cheney Johnston was a photographer in New York who pulled all of his models from the chorus line of the Ziegfeld Follies.
Oh.
So he had some incredibly beautiful models, including among them Barbara Stanwyck was, as a
Wow.
young girl, was one of his models. And all of that kind of work up to about 1930 really got me going. And
Mm.
then, moving on into the 50s, there are American, well, Andre de Dians was a Hungarian photographer who moved to the United States and did most of his work here. And Peter Bash is another one who's American, who did a lot of work in California in the 1950s. And
Yeah.
they kind of kept up the work of the art nude and brought it into, the more modern era of better film.
Sure, sure. Um, so why the art nude necessarily? Is that something that you're drawn to, that you're inspired by? How did you come to specifically that subject?
Well, as I mentioned, I saw these works from 100 years ago, and they were
Yeah.
stunning. I mean, they were beautiful. Look a few up on Google or Bing, and you'll be really impressed with the quality of the work.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of photographers out there doing really beautiful things, but what I saw is that we just aren't doing this kind of work anymore. Nobody,
Sure.
not nobody, but it's rare to see it. And I thought, this is beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a one-man campaign to restore the dignity of this style of work
I gotcha.
and bring it to people's attention. And I'll tell you, the thing that I love most is when I'm doing a show and a young person, a 20 something, will walk into my little booth area and look at something, and you'll just see their eyes pop and their jaw drop, and they'll go, my God, these are beautiful, because they've never seen them. They've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, Nude photography, when pornography took over everything
Sure.
in the 1960s,
Mm.
all nude photography got painted with that brush.
Mm.
And so it all became pornographic, it all became taboo. And so we kind of lost out on the one aspect of nude photography, which is simple beauty.
Yeah. And I really love like the contrasting tones that you have in your work.
Mhm.
So are you like doing anything specifically as far as lighting, or why are you choosing particular poses?
Poses are chosen to show light, shadow, and form.
Mhm.
Uh, it's easy to do a pornographic pose,
Yeah, yeah,
no
yeah.
problem there. But to show the person as the body as a thing of beauty,
Mm.
uh, you choose a pose that doesn't emphasize the parts that people consider vulgar,
Oh, yeah.
and then use your lighting to highlight those areas, to highlight the whole form, to show the human body as a thing of beauty.
Mm.
And so, yeah, actually, I'm sitting in the middle of my studio right now. I'm sitting at the place where a lot of my models have been photographed,
Okay.
and I kind of have my studio lights on, but they're not set up this way to
Mm.
show those kinds of shadows that you normally see in the photographs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I really love that one in the back there. They're both beautiful. So, how do you go about finding people who want to be photographed? Or are you like paying a model fee, or what are you doing there?
Well, when I started out, I just advertised locally,
Okay,
and because I didn't know anything about how to find models, just as you asked.
sure.
And so I started working with a couple of local girls, one of whom I still work with, and we've become good friends. Um, but not too far into it, I discovered there are websites that are set up specifically to connect models and photographers. And there are women who make a living out of traveling from place to place and setting up modeling assignments. This woman's name is Astrid Carlson.
Mm-hmm.
She's a professional model, full time, lives in Atlanta. Every month or two or three, she'll just get in the car and run a circuit and go, set up in advance visits and shoots with different photographers, and she'll just go on the road for a month
Wow.
and then come back. I shot this one in, think it was February or March.
Mm-hmm.
And from visiting me for this shoot, she went to Mexico for a month. She went to Hawaii for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And, it was, just staying in a hotel and setting up with local photographers and working with them
Mm-hmm.
and then moving on to the next location.
Wow.
And I have, well, I couldn't tell you the numbers, but I have probably 7 or 8
Mhm.
professional models that I work with regularly who, come to let me know when they're going to be on the road, let me
Mm.
know when they're going to be in the area. And I'm retired. I got all the time in the world. So we can set up a shoot here at the houses quite easily.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
let me mention those sites because there are other photographers who may be interested.
absolutely.
The most common site for connecting with models is a site called modelmayhem.com. All run together, Model Mayhem. There's
Mm,
another one that's getting more notice these days called modelsociety.com.
mm.
I'm a member of both, and made a number of good connections and met a number of my models through Model Mayhem.
Wow. That is so interesting. These are like there's so much about this that I'm completely unfamiliar with personally. So like I took photography in college and we had film cameras and I learned how to develop film in a dark room and do all of that. So when you started doing this, are you working purely digital?
Yes, I am. Digital is so much easier. Uh, there are purists who say only film is perfect, just like there are purists who say only vinyl is perfect in records. But what really made me go to digital is it's so quick and it's so inexpensive. You remember buying a roll of film, you remember buying all the developing chemicals,
Yeah.
you remember standing in a dark room for an hour to produce one test print. Well, I can do that on my computer screen in 5 minutes. And I can
Yeah.
reset the colors, reset the lighting. I can go in and edit out blemishes or tattoos or
Mm.
anything that I have one model who has several children and has some quite obvious stretch marks. I can get those out of there in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But all these things that film photographers had to do with great difficulty in a darkroom, I can do it no cost in 5 minutes on a computer. And as far as I'm concerned, and this is just me personally, the quality is no better in film than it is in
Oh,
digital.
absolutely. I completely agree with that. And when you're doing your editing and things, are you using a particular program?
I use a program called GIMP, GIMP,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and it is a freeware program that is available, was created by students at a university, and there's an organization that keeps it up and updates it.
Mm.
It is probably not as completely capable as the commercial applications like
Mm.
Photoshop, but it does everything I want to do, and it's free. And I'm big on free. That's a real recommendation to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually heard of GIMP myself. I haven't used it before, but I'm familiar with Photoshop because I work with that as a graphic designer. So I'm really interested in like what how are you going about editing them other than removing, say, things that you're wanting to smooth over, change or whatever. How are you going about getting like the contrast that you have in your imagery? Are you doing like just a grayscale and then using some sort of like contrast
Yeah,
tool?
well, GIMP, like Photoshop, has the ability to go to grayscale
Yeah.
in different styles, emphasizing shadows, emphasizing light, emphasizing contrast. And
Hmm.
then you can go in and adjust contrast, brightness, colors, of course. I don't do a lot of colors, but I do some occasionally.
Yeah.
And so just about anything you want to adjust, you can. Now, I'm going to give you my personal answer on how I do it, and that's by feel, by look.
Mm.
I have absolutely zero training in art. The last art class I had was in eighth grade. But so, I've spent a lot of time, looking at art. I've always been
Yeah.
interested in art, and I've absorbed everything I've seen.
Mm.
And so I just, when I'm trying to, when I created this photo,
Hmm.
I created the pose based on the work of like Peter Bash in '50s. That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
And then I did the lighting to show the forms and the figure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I put it in a computer, and I set up the contrast, set up the darkness, the lighting. You can change the amount of shadow in a good
Yeah.
digital editor. And I set it up to look the way I wanted it to look what I thought it was its best. And I guess that's what being an artist is, but
Yeah, yeah.
I do what looks good to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I can't quite tell on that image, but like where her legs are bending, and I
Oh
guess,
yeah, she's seated on her knees. She's on her
yeah.
knees, and she just leaned out to one side.
So is the like the dark like blanket or whatever, can you see her
Yeah.
legs under there or are you?
No, I can barely see it, but I
Yeah.
shadowed that, and this is dark, as you say, it's a dark blanket, and
Yeah.
so the reflected light off that is not lighting her legs underneath her.
Oh, I love that. That is so interesting.
Yeah, she's a great girl. She was just here. I just shot her again last week, or no, this week. She was here Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't remember, but I'll have some new photos of her coming up soon. And
Yeah.
then, there's other thing I want to mention here. You probably can't see the highlights of this frame, But because I'm going for a classic style, I go for classic frames.
Oh, okay.
I go to thrift stores, I go to estate sales, I find classic frames, and again, I'm cheap. I buy them cheap.
Mm.
This frame is oak. I believe it's pre-war. I believe it's probably from the 20s or 30s, based on
Wow.
the patina and the scroll work that I see on it.
Yeah.
But that way, I'm putting together a total package of a classic style
Mm.
rather than just a photograph in a box.
I gotcha. Yeah. That is really wonderful because I mean, I think a lot of us, including me, I hate to say it, but I've done the thrifting thing for frames, but a lot of times it's so easy to go to someplace like Michael's or something like that. And then you're just getting like I in particular, because I'm wanting to save money, I'm just getting the boxed, like the black I forget what they call them.
The simple black frames.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they're
Well,
cheap. That's why I'm buying them that way, but it's really beautiful that you're able to find. Are you like when you're looking for frames, are you going to particular thrift shops in the area or you don't want to tell me where?
you never can tell what you'll find where. There are some shops in the Huntsville area that are good. There's some really good ones in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Birmingham has excellent thrift stores. Uh, just about anywhere, but it's a matter of being able to thrift store. Every thrift store changes day to day, and they never know what they're going to have,
Sure,
and so
sure.
it's a matter of luck.
Yeah.
Uh, I just hit places. I have the time. I'm retired.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I can go wander down to Birmingham and spend a day wandering through thrift stores. And that's where I get a lot of my props, a lot of my costumes. I do, you can't, neither one of these is an example, but I have a lot of 1950s lingerie, negligees,
Mm.
19, I have a great collection of 1930s hats that
Oh,
are great fun to play with.
yeah.
So that's where I get all my props as well.
Okay.
And it's a little, if you're stretched for time, it's easier to watch estate sales. There are a couple of websites that cover upcoming estate sales in a given area, your given area.
Yeah.
And if you watch those, they'll show pictures of what they have, and you'll very often see, tucked back in a corner behind something that they're trying to highlight. There's a stack of old frames,
Oh, yeah.
and only people like you and I are interested in them, so they're cheap. I
Yeah.
think I paid $10 for this, and it's in excellent
Wow.
shape. I have some that go back. I have some that are 19th century
Wow. So
with
are
the
you
original glass.
yeah, oh my gosh. So are you doing anything to them or as far as like painting them or restoring the frames or anything like that?
No, I generally
Just
don't
clean
mess
them
around
up?
with ones that have. Yeah, I don't mess around with ones that have to be restored. If it's good enough for me to use, I clean it up if needed.
Yeah.
If it's falling apart, and some of mine I've recovered have been falling apart, I'll just throw a coat of semi-gloss clear on them, just
Oh,
to anchor down what paint remains.
I gotcha.
Uh, and other than that, I just pretty much use them as is.
Wow. That is so interesting because I think that even though like the photography itself is very beautiful, but then giving it a frame that is completely unique, completely, you know, from history, it's actually wood or whatever it is, and it just brings so much beauty to it, I think.
Well, it's a thing for me. Again, I have the time. I like to do it that way.
Yeah.
I have had a few people say, you're just wasting your time with all this. You ought to just uh, sell, make prints available and sell unframed prints. It's just not what I want to do, and I have the time, and it's what I
Yeah.
want to do. So the heck with you.
Yeah. I feel like that's in that way, the very thing that you're trying to do, which is restore an art form, right? If you're going to just sell a digital print online, then that's going against what you're trying to do.
In a way, yeah. I'm really trying to recreate a whole art form that is basically lost.
Yeah, yeah. So do you set up at, like, I think you do some different shows in the area?
Yes. I have been in a few galleries. So my work has been exhibited in Studio 2500 in Birmingham. I did a couple of shows with them that where it was just a what I was doing matched what they wanted to be. I have two pieces right now at the 905 gallery. Actually, another copy of this and another photo of mine are in the 905 gallery in Selma. Galleries are a little hard to find for me. Because again of the taboo attached to nudes. A lot of galleries say, well, we have children in here, or grandma might not like it. And so what I have done more than anything in the past 3 years is the punk rock art show circuit.
Oh yeah.
Brian Burke's in Birmingham with has really been a tremendous leg up to me, allowing me to come to the punk rock art shows, display, and sell my works there. I've done a lot of great things with him. There's like a scene, a punk rock art show scene out there that is emerging. I did one in Nashville last fall.
Oh.
I tried to get into one that's in Knoxville this weekend, but there was a mix up. And there's an outfit that's doing these punk rock art shows from down the East Coast, from Washington all the way down to Savannah. And they schedule 2-day weekend shows in different venues all the way down. And I'm set up for one in Spartanburg that I believe is in November. And I'm set up for one in Atlanta. They're having a 2-day Halloween punk rock art show in Atlanta. And I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be, I guess it's the 28th and 29th, or 29th and 30th. I don't remember right now, but it's a Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a big show. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I bet.
So I would love to be in galleries, man. I'll fill a gallery. I got enough work around here. You give me a 20 by 20 room in a gallery, I'll fill it, no problem. All with good work, not junk.
Yeah.
And but God, I want to get the stuff out there anywhere I can. And the people who are happiest to see me are the offbeat, the punk rock, the anti-establishment type of. I guess that's probably an overly broad term, but the let's say independent shows.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
They're
Now
much more welcoming of offbeat art, and this is
yeah,
kind of offbeat art these days.
yeah. And see, why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of the area that we're in, like the Southeast Bible Belt kind of area? Or do you find that there are like certain locations where, like nude photography is more appreciated?
No, and I don't think it's so much the Bible Belt aspect of Alabama. I was rejected from a gallery in Athens. Athens, you might say, yeah, that's probably a little Bible Belt, but they use the kids' excuse. They said, oh, we have high school children in here doing classes, but I think it's just generally, let's see. This may be one you have to back up on too. There was one, and I won't mention names, but there was one current modern gallery that opened in Birmingham about a year or two ago that follows me on Instagram and has told me how much they like my work and has told me they would love to have my work in their gallery, but and I get that from a lot of mainstream galleries anywhere, even in, like I said, Birmingham or Huntsville, which you would expect to be more liberal cities, rather than out in rural Alabama.
Sure.
So I don't think it's an Alabama or Bible Belt thing so much as it is just is it's still not generally accepted in a lot of the quote unquote mainstream art world.
Mm, that is so interesting because I've never really thought about that as being something, like I want to say I'm a big fan of Georgia O'Keeffe.
Mhm.
You familiar? Yeah. And then
Yes,
she was in a relationship with Alfred Stieglitz.
Alfred Stieglitz, and he did some beautiful nude photos of her.
Yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
so when I think of that, I think of those photos in particular, and you know, they were coming up in a time, that it seems like it should be more accepted as an art form, because
Well, as I said, I think it was, it was more avant-garde, of
yeah,
course, in the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s. But I I really think something happened in the 1960s and 1970s
mm,
that brought this type of work back behind the curtains again.
yeah, yeah.
And so I'm the guy who's going to change that.
Oh, that's awesome. So, what would you say? I guess what would you say are some of your biggest struggles then with your work?
Well, the biggest struggle is that I have no idea what I'm doing. As I said, and I'm saying that on purpose because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are thinking, I love art. I have seen art all of my life. I would love to create something, but I don't know what to create and I don't know how and I don't know where to start.
Yeah,
I started out doing these nudes with one work light from Home Depot and the camera on my phone.
yeah.
And everything I've done since then I've just made it up as I've gone.
Mm,
I've developed, I guess you could call it a style.
mhm.
I've developed, what I think looks good to me, and I hope it pleases other people. But as I said, my last art class was eighth grade. I have no training in this. I've looked at art all my life, and I wanted to try it.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that has excited me most is this photography work of all the stuff I've tried to do.
Mhm.
And it's just been a learning process. I've been doing this for 6 years, and I was at the point about last year where I thought I started to feel like I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
I think I'm speaking for a lot of artists when I say I got through that very quickly and suddenly realized I didn't know what I was doing. That there were more things that I could see that I could do better
Mm,
or do to make the work more interesting or do to make the work more beautiful or do to make the work more unique. So I think, and I'm sure you know this, that it's just a never ending process of growth.
mm.
And adopting to that has been the biggest struggle for me coming from, I was an engineer for 37 years. That's what I did. And, that was a business where we pretty much knew how to do most of the stuff we were doing.
Yeah.
So it's and being out here on my own and doing all this, it's just been I guess you would call it a struggle, but it's been a joyful struggle, because every now and then I see something, I go, "Wow, you got that one, didn't you?" And the rest of it's just been learning, figuring out how to do things, finding models,
Yeah.
finding props. I keep telling myself I'm going to build a studio in my backyard here. I've got the space, but I never get around to it. But I think I'm going to try and get that started this year so I can move out of my house. As
Yeah.
I said, I'm sitting in my studio, which is my living room.
Yeah.
This couch is my 1950s couch, which appears in a lot of my photographs, and it's in my living room.
Wow.
So that's what I want to do next. But I wouldn't call it so much a struggle as an incredible learning process. Unfortunately for me,
Yeah.
I have the time to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said something about, not like photography being for those that don't know how to draw, but what it comes down to, I think, is any creative process. You're because we're all creating something unique, most likely, it's a learning experience and you just keep picking up things along the way, which is
Mhm.
sounds like what you're doing, and I would say it's definitely working. I love what you're doing. This is great.
Yeah, as I said, the thing I really like is introducing people who've never seen work like this
Mm,
to the beauty of it. And seeing a 20 something who's never seen anything like this go, wow,
yeah.
that's beautiful. Why have I not seen something like this before?
Wow. That's so awesome. That's really
Mhm.
great. So where can people find your photography at?
Well, I am on Facebook as Capitalist Tools Artworks. I am on Instagram as Capitalist Tools.
Mm,
I have a sales website that I have not been paying as much attention to as I should, but you can find me there at capitalisttoolsartworks.com.
okay.
And as I mentioned, I'm also on Viewbug as
Yeah.
Capitalist Tools. I'm on DeviantArt as
Oh,
Capitalist Tools. I don't remember if that's Capitalist Tools or Capitalist Tools Artworks. Anyway, any of those sites, you just look for Capitalist Tools and you'll probably find me.
awesome. Well, thank you so
Oh,
much.
and
Yeah.
I want to mention Model Mayhem again,
Oh, yeah.
because that's not just, that is a great outlet, not just for photographers, but for people who want to model.
Oh,
And you may have noticed that almost all of my works are of women. Male models are impossible to find.
wow.
So if there are males who would like to try that, please get involved, because I keep I'm not going to say I keep, but it's fairly often mentioned to me is, these are all women. How come you don't do men? I can't find any. I've done transgender models. I've done women, but I've only found one male model in the 6 years I've been doing this.
Wow. So there is a real need for male models out there. Holy cow.
Well, there's work for them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's really cool. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. It was
Thank
wonderful
you.
having you. And so I'll be in touch and I'll let you know, when this is going to be published. And I'll be sharing, like you had sent, I think some images, and information and stuff like that. And I'll try to add that to all of my the podcast. And I actually will post this on YouTube. So, if you want to link to it in some other
Oh,
place,
absolutely. This would be
yeah,
great.
yeah.
This would be great.
And it will really help, I think, other people to understand what it is that you're doing and, how much thought you're putting into all of it as well, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dan. I'll
Thank
be in touch.
thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, and I hope it's going to be a good broadcast for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
All
All right.
right.
Well, I'll talk to you later.
Holler if there's anything else I can do for you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Art Talk with April. For more information on this episode, join the Facebook group, The Art Lounge. Please subscribe and share. See you next Tuesday. Hope you have a great week.